Jeff Slauson here from 19 News Now at the 19 News digital desk. It's going to be very hot over the next couple of days, extending into the weekend, and of course Monday and Tuesday of next week when we have a first alert weather day. Now that degree of heat may make you think, hey, I should probably take a trip and go out to the water, maybe try and use Lake Erie a little bit. There are a couple beaches that you might want to be conscious of here. So what you're seeing right there are six, different flags that are shown right there. Those are active beach advisories, specifically for bacteria-related advisories. And by bacteria, we are talking about E. coli. So, want to just show you those right there. What we are seeing, that is Columbia Park Beach, Cuyahoga County along Lake Erie. We are seeing Lakeshore Park in Ashtabula County and Lake Erie, White's Landing in Erie County. We are seeing Arcadia Beach in Cuyahoga County, and then Community Park Beach in Lorain County. Those are the ones that you're going to need to look out for as we approach this weekend. Now, when it's an E. coli advisory, essentially, what that means is there's trace counts, basically, of E. coli in the water. It's not so much to where they actually are shutting down swimming, but it's enough to be able to be conscious of it and to understand it. So I did two interviews today. I did one with the Sewer Authority that talked about the cleanup, but the first one I want to go to is with Dr. Amy Edwards over at University Hospitals. Just really quickly, her explaining why this is so dangerous and what you need to be conscious of. Now, again, if you'd want to go into the water and just put your feet in, that's fine. The concern is if the water would get into your mouth. Her suggestion, honestly, is just to not go to the water while this exists.
People who are at highest risk from E. coli are people who are already sick, young children, the elderly, people who are immune compromised, that sort of thing. And then as well, when you think about young children, they're the ones most likely to accidentally swallow some of the water, get the water in their mouth because they're not doing a good job of keeping their hands away from their mouth and that sort of stuff. If you, if you're up to your knees, cooling off, getting your feet in the water, you're going to get E. coli. No, that's not how that works. It's the splashing around. It's the, getting it on your hands and then going back and eating, some watermelon or whatever. So generally we advise people who are high risk because of medical conditions, and people who, like children, might struggle with, cleaning themselves and keeping their hands away from their mouth, to avoid going to the beach during this time. I have not seen the report to know exactly how high the levels are. I do know when the levels get very high, they'll just shut the beaches down. And I don't think that's what they did. I think they just put out an advisory.
Yeah, that's correct. So it's just an advisory for some of these areas, but obviously when people hear the term E. coli, they get concerned. I understand that here. When we have a situation, you were mentioning how, if you're putting your feet in, you're totally fine. But if your kids are in the water, they've been splashing around, things like that, is there something that parents should potentially be looking out for to maybe determine if their child is getting sick from it or something like that? That could be a telltale sign that it is E. coli.
Well, the first thing I would advise is if you are going to play in the water this weekend, that you make sure to either use hand sanitizer or wash with soap and water when you get out. Just to try to see what we can do to avoid getting sick. Obviously, that will do nothing if water got splashed in the mouth or something like that. But yeah, E. coli is a very common cause of diarrhea. So you would expect over the next couple of days, you might see a little bit of vomiting, stomach pain, diarrhea, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so not ideal, especially if you're planning on just going outside to enjoy the water there on those hot days. It's just not lining up well. Again, the beaches are still open. The water has not been marked for you not to swim in it. But the suggestion is to avoid it right now while they clear this up a little bit. Now, this testing is being done consistently. As I mentioned, I spoke with the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer Authority, or District, earlier today, and the Public Information Specialist, Jessica Shuddy. She broke down how basically every single day at 6 a.m. they're doing the testing. If there comes a time when this becomes a little bit more prevalent, they'll test even more. I'll bring into the interview that we did earlier.
So we do water quality testing at Edgewater and Villa Angela because we want to make sure that it's safe for, not just recreational purposes, so swimming and boating and fishing, but also it's important for us to make sure the aquatic life that lives there is safe, in fact, to live there and thrive. So we do various points of Lake Erie Edgewater, and Villa Angela. And we do that 7 days a week, where not every sewer district does that. So they might come out a few times during the recreation season, but we're out there 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday.
Are those spots typically spots that potentially could see some sort of a problem as far as quality goes? Like, why in particular are those the ones?
Well, we like closer to the shore, you get, the debris, you get different things growing and from the wind and different area environmental aspects. So we pick various areas to make sure that the water is safe based upon what's going on, what's the environment looking like, what's the weather looking like, the waves, again, the debris, had it just rained, has it been really dry? All those things kind of play into factor of when or why we test and where.
Now, just in the past couple of days here, the state had sent out a couple of warnings related to E. coli in some spots along Lake Erie. Is that something that you guys would be looking at or could show up in the testing?
So we use Nowcast as a predictor. They do their own source of testing. So we use Nowcast to tell people in real time whether it's a prediction if it's safe to swim. We go out and we do our water quality testing. Our water quality and industrial surveillance team goes out. They take a sample, they bring it back to our lab, and then it takes about 18 to 24 hours for those tests to come back. And we test for different various types of bacteria, but also E. coli. So because that takes about 18 to 24 hours, we rely on our Nowcast as a prediction of whether it's safe to swim or not. And if we do find traces of E. coli or other bacteria, then we continually monitor. If it's depending on the levels of E. coli, we might be out there several times the next few days. Instead of just that one time, to really make sure that it is safe to swim and that none of our aquatic friends are in any danger whatsoever.
If it's determined that whether it is E. coli or something else entirely, that it is too dangerous to swim, what are the, I guess, procedures then from that point out?
So we work with the Cleveland Metro Parks to post monitoring and signs up at the various locations. So you'll see like a green sign that says, hey, it's good to swim, enjoy, or there might be a sign that says red that says it's poor quality. We also utilize at nursd.org in our Twitter account that we post all that stuff live and say whether it's safe to swim or not, again, every day. We also utilize different media partners to post like on Total Traffic, different radio or television stations to give those beach reports so folks know as they're starting their day whether it's safe or not to swim. But we tell everybody it's a good, if it had rained the day before or if it's rained in the morning, that you definitely want to check out our beach reports to see if it's safe to swim, because that rain and that environment kind of brings up some debris and different things where it might not be safe to swim.
This is obviously really important to do all year round or whenever you potentially could have people going in, but at this point right now, I mean, we're expecting some pretty warm temperatures over the next couple of days, which could mean more people in the water. So
Absolutely.
How important then does it make all of your jobs to make sure that that water quality is where it needs to be?
Well, I mean, the sewer district is always looking out for its ratepayers, its customers, the community. So going out every day, making sure that we're doing adequate testing, that we're also, when we just do our test, we bring it back to the lab, we have a chain of custody to make sure that all of our samples that we are bringing in, because there's hundreds, are all, a chain of custody, safe. We know whose sample it is. We know where it goes to, what testing needs to be done for it. We take very pride in our work to make sure that we are giving the most accurate information out to the public. So again, not just for our recreational folks. Obviously, that's huge right now, especially like you mentioned, the warm weather coming in. But we also want to make sure that our aquatic life that's living there is safe, they're thriving. And that's another key important factor in that water quality testing as well.
If there is an issue in one spot that you're testing for, how much of a likelihood is there then that there could be that issue in a different spot, or does it all seem to be localized depending on where you are?
It just kind of depends on where it is. If we do see an issue, we will go to other areas within that beach to see how is the water quality, because that could, explain some things. If it's closer to the shores, there's something that maybe was, happening near the shore. Was there, we see people like, picnics and things like that. Different things could come into play. So we're not just going to take one sample. If we see an issue, we're going to definitely investigate a little bit more and survey the area. And also just to kind of take a look at what Nowcast is telling us. And then also what the weather's been looking like the day before and, different things, because there's certain things that can come into factor that are outside of our control. And we want to make sure that we're covering all of our bases when we're reporting anything like this.
So you say the testing happens consistently, right? So tomorrow there will be more testing done?
Yep, every day they're out there at 6 a.m. and they're taking the samples. And then again, we bring it back to our lab and they go through their process. And then within 18 to 24 hours, we know exactly what's going on. Again, we do the predictive measures of nowcast to see if it is safe to swim in.
And for people that are curious, you mentioned it, but what's the best way for people to be able to see what the quality is looking like and for those predictions you were mentioning?
Well, you absolutely have to follow us on Twitter or X, but at NEORSD Beaches is another way. We do our total traffic things in the morning. Channel 3 does some beach reports, but definitely check out our website. You can find it there first and foremost.
And of course, we will look into this more on 19 News at 11 o'clock. 10 o'clock, we do not have a show because of the Cleveland Monsters. But something to look out for, go to our website at cleveland19.com. I have a full write-up on that with links so you can find where to look before you head out to swim. We will have more, as I said, on this in a little more than an hour. For now, I'm Jeff Slauson with 19 News. Have a great night. Much more to come, both on air and online.